All right, welcome back, everybody. ADHD agents, we are on episode numero dos. Dos. I want to put something out here before we start, Phil, because Ian out in Austin made a joke, and he was like, "Wow, you guys made it to episode 2. Like that's a big accomplishment." I was like, "Yeah, for ADHD, it kind of is." So I'm going to throw this out there. We're doing one season to start. 10 episodes. We're not allowed to stop. I don't care if people stop watching. We're doing 10 episodes.
I'm in.
You down? All right.
I'm in.
It's here. It's on air. We're not cutting it out. We're doing 10.
It's already on the calendar.
You got a hat on. I'm okay. Hat on. Okay. So for those of you who didn't join us in episode 1, my name is Bill, and I have ADHD. I'm a realtor in Charleston, South Carolina, and this is my co-host.
And I am Phil. I am a realtor and team lead here in Greenville, South Carolina. And we are both in the same brokerage and, found each other with the similar opportunities, if you will, on things of that we deal with on a daily basis due to the superpower that we have.
Yeah. Never been in the same room together. Would like to
Nope.
one day, but
yeah, definitely.
Just kind of got connected through Real Broker and our brains. So, like I started the last episode, we're going to start with our disclaimers that we are not medical professionals. We just play them on this podcast. Anything said here is just our thoughts and opinions, and it is being live streamed, so don't share any personal information. All right,
that you don't want people to know.
That you don't want people to know. Yes, that is your disclaimer and your warning. For those of you listening live, drop anything in the comments that you want to add to the discussion or have us answer. For those of you, if you're just on the audio recording, you can jump over to YouTube and watch the live, and we'll put these comments up on the screen for you. So let's get into this. We've ADHD too much. I'm excited for this one. We're talking about from chaos to closings, which I told Phil when I came up with that title. If I ever write a book about ADHD and real estate, or if anyone ever does, like that needs to be the title, because I think it just sums up our everyday life. Like we go into it like our minds are such chaos and we're trying to get to those closings.
Very true. Very true. And I had sent Bill a message, I think it was Monday morning. I was out, trying to get my daily exercise in, get my walk in. And I just had this moment like, oh man, there's times in the chaos for me that there's calmness in the chaos because of all the chaos going on. And typically, the chaos going on, but you're getting things in the, back in the right direction, and, everything's moving in the direction it needs to go. And for me, there's either a calmness or a sense of maybe pride. I don't know. Just like there's something there for me that's just like, oh, okay, good. This is good. This feels good. And, of course, I think for anybody like us, the neurodiverse, if you will, there's a certain level of chaos that's always going on, whether it's just in our heads or in reality. So, I think it's going to be a lot of cool topics covered today.
Yeah, so we kind of broke this down into kind of different chaotic traits that we all feel and have as ADHDers. Everyone kind of feels these a little differently. You might have one or you might not have one. And we're going to kind of go over the negatives and then talk about how it's actually can be used as a positive to build your business and to just kind of be better and not let it dwell on that negative side. And the first one I wrote down here, Phil, was impulsivity. As ADHDers, we are very impulsive, whether to just do things, buy things, whatever it is, we're pretty quick decision makers. And that can have consequences quite often with finances or just with lots of failing because we haven't thought things through. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that first thing that came to my mind, especially in the real estate world, the shiny object syndrome.
Oh, yes.
There are, I don't know, for those that aren't in the industry, the amount of calls that you get for your car warranty or solar panels or that we probably get that much times 3 from companies selling us leads or
And health
quali-
insurance.
yeah, and health insurance, ton of health and those are texts every day. But
Yeah.
just the amount of we can provide these leads for you, the service for you, and that's something that definitely I had to work hard to get under control because it's like being a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh wow, look at that, oh wow, look at that, and
Yeah,
having the attention
definitely.
span, the impulsivity, like, oh, I want it, and just like I'm not the latest greatest tech guy, but I know people that are. As soon as as soon as the latest and greatest, like iPhone, there'll be lines, around the building for the new iPhone, and it's not any real whole, nothing's that much different, but because it's the newest, latest, greatest thing, people want to go run to it,
Yep.
and it's something that you have to fight off, and I do anyway, because I don't really.
Yeah.
Because I also know that in 3 months from now there'll be another one out, and
Yeah.
that feeling that you had for 4 minutes is gone.
Yeah. You almost have to write down like the pros and cons. Like, is it worth it? It's like with the lead thing, like this is a big one for whether you have ADHD or not. Like, here's a piece of advice for you. If you chase all of those to build your business, you will go broke before you close anything.
Yep.
100%.
Definitely.
But on the flip side of this, impulsivity for us has a very, very big upside because if we can get past that shiny object of the paying for the leads and all that, like our industry is constantly changing. So our impulsivity actually helps us to be early adopters to new things, to where someone else might be like dwelling on it and researching it and researching it. We might just dive in, and by the time they pull the trigger, we're a few months ahead of them. Yeah, that could lead to some failures. We can always learn from our mistakes, but it can be such a positive for things like that. For me, an example for me was with YouTube. When I started doing YouTube, really nobody was doing it. And a lot of people looked at me and they're like, really? Like, that's going to boost your business? I was like, I got this. Like, let's do it. I still hyper focus on learning as much as I can about that platform. And now it's like the cool thing to do. So where all of these agents are now kind of coming in and trying to learn it, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of them. So where people were like, don't do that. Like, you got to do this. I was like, no, I got this. And it panned out. And it's not just that, it's anything you do, if you're an early adopter and you can hyper focus on it, you will make it work for when other people jump in.
Because
like jump in before the pool is full.
Energy goes where focus flows, or focus goes where energy goes. I'm saying that totally wrong, but I think you get what I'm saying. Energy goes where the focus is.
Yeah. Oh, Ramsey, let's go. Thank you, Ramsey. I think another thing for me was actually when I switched brokerages over to Real very early on, and I had to make a quick decision because I had some things coming up that I didn't want to fall under my old brokerage and lose some money. But even something like that, I made a 3-day decision where I know some people spend months like calculating it. Like, I'm a solo agent, so it's a lot easier for me than someone with a team or a large team. But you know, even situations like that, like, yeah, I took a chance. Every time you make a snap decision, you're taking a chance. For me, that panned out. Whether it's to Real or Keller Williams, wherever you're going, like sometimes you just got to do it, whatever it is, just do it.
One of my favorite quotes that goes along with that: "If you never jump, the parachute will never open."
I like that. I'm afraid of heights.
So it did take me a little bit longer, not quite that long, because I do have a team, and I looked at quite a few different brokerages, but I already had it narrowed down. There were some great things that we have in place that some of the other ones also have in place.
Mhm.
But it was boiled down to went over the pros and cons, and I met
Mhm.
with each one of my team members, and this is where what I'm taking the team to, and I'd love to have you come with me. And here's the benefits of it. And if you don't, I understand. Wish you the best. And they all came. And here we are, almost 2 years later, 2 years in April
Mhm.
later, and definitely been the best decision, to best landing spot for us. Because
Yeah.
I knew I only had a little bit more time at my previous brokerage because it was a small boutique. Broker's, nice guy, broker owner, just not very involved. His go-to answer was call legal hotline. Oh, just
We
call
don't like
legal
to do
hotline.
that. We don't like to pick up the phone.
Right. And
I mean, that's
so
like terrible to say in this industry, but it's true. Like
yeah, it is.
it's kind of
Well,
one of
it's
our.
800 pounds. It's 800
It
pounds.
is.
So,
It is.
you know,
Um,
we
yeah.
finally made the choice and moved over. And actually, I was the last one on my team to move over.
Yeah.
All my other agents moved over before I did, and due to the things we had going on, I had to finish up at the previous brokerage. But it has been a mind opening, eye opening, mind blowing experience, and it's been great. I have zero regrets.
Yeah, and I'm looking at our show notes here because that really falls into like what you put, and it's not even about a brokerage switch or anything, but it's just finding that tool or program that does end up being life changing. For me, it was YouTube. I know you do a lot of um, was it foreclosures and all of that. Like you kind of learned those tools, and there were probably a lot of things that like you jumped on. I know you said like you and your partner that does it, like he dwells on things and you jump on it quicker.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
like if you're taking the lead, like you're taking more of the chances. We're taking more risks in our business. And everyone says research things, but then everyone also says like if you don't take risks, you're never gonna succeed. But we're more prone to take risks in our minds. And I think that means we're more prone to those risks paying off.
Mm-hmm.
They might not always be calculated risks. They're just risks. We just hope that parachute's going to open.
Anyways, you gotta trust. You gotta have that trust. Um,
Yep.
it's you just gotta know it's going to work. Um, and I'm trying to find. Oh, here you go. One of my favorite quotes by Jim Rohn. Um, if you think trying is risky, wait till you get the bill for not trying. And
Right.
it's just man, it's huge. If you never try, you'll never know. Now, does it mean you try once and fail and go away? Depends on what it is. And I guess that's the great thing about our impulsivity is, we can do that and, try it and didn't work. Just, all right, next,
Yeah,
cool.
tried a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a lot of cool aspects. And the more for me, the more I learn about the different symptoms and coping strategies, the more excited I get. Of course, there's also a another emotional aspect of that is like, oh, I'm not, why am I not finding this out till now, type of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
we can, can only look in the rearview mirror so long. That's why the windshield's so big, and the
Yep.
rearview mirror is so small. We got to look forward, move forward, and
Yeah.
just keep going.
Yeah. We just have to I think for us, we just have to realize that. I know
Yes.
we can dwell on the negative a lot, and you just have to like have a safe word for yourself. Like, some people meditate, for me, it's music, whatever you do when you take that risk, if it doesn't work, have a safety net in place. Like if that parachute doesn't open, have that safety net of how do I stay positive? Okay, I fell, but I'm alive. It's not the end of the world. For me, I just put on, different types of music to change my mood. And some people meditate. I can't sit still, so that doesn't work for me.
And I think, and to touch on that, I think also one thing that's helped me a lot is having my own definition of meditation. Because I'm saying, well, I can't sit still. If I'm, because my ideal day, I'm waking up and I'm getting some me time in the mornings, some meditation and gratitude, and but during that whole time I don't stop moving, because if I sit and I sit still, I'm going to fall back asleep. No matter what time of day it is, I'm just going to fall asleep because just exhausted half the time.
Yep.
But because the mind never quits. So it's just redefining, like reading books. I do a lot of audiobooks because I can sit there and look at a book and read the words on it and have no idea what I just read, and be like, oh, hey, thinking about 14 other things, this and that, oh, I got this tomorrow, I got this. And, I think I may have mentioned to you before, the most effective way I've ever read a book is had earbuds in, the audio book
Yeah.
on, playing while I'm reading the book. And so, during when I go for my walks in the morning, I throw on, some audio books and, get my daily reading out of the way. And I say out of the way, but, because I want to consume some of that knowledge to enhance my life and those around me. And, and see, on my thing with your comment about having a plan B, I'm a burn the boats guy. Let's burn the boats, and we'll take the island, because there's no other option. Real estate is, like I've told my team this week in our meeting, I said, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to be successful, and we're going to make it, and we're going to do, be, one of the best teams here, because that's what I've decided. And, so it's just, you either got to get on board or, get off of the next exit, because we're heading that direction. And come hell or high water, we'll get there. Don't know, don't know. I don't have all the answers, and don't have
think you do.
everything. Right.
Don't tell my wife. Don't tell our wives that we don't have all the answers.
But, it's just, you got to make the decision and, make that commitment. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short and fail, is the lack of commitment's not there.
Yeah.
The story I've told several times to my team is, you're the pig or the egg, or your pig or the chicken. The chicken was involved, by producing the egg, but the pig, he was committed. There's only one way you're getting bacon on a plate. And so, just what's your level of commitment to what you're trying to do and trying to accomplish?
And sometimes you just got to roll around in shit to figure it out.
Exactly.
So here's a quick tip, like talking about reading. If you guys don't know about this, or if you've never heard of it, it's called like half bold. Have you ever seen this? To where like the first 3 letters of a word are in bold. I need books written like that. The first time I ever saw that, I was like, what is this witchcraft that I just read faster than I've read anything else in my life, and comprehended every single word? And it comes down to that our brains usually move faster than what we're doing. Like for me, like trying to write notes, like I'm skipping over words because my brain is faster than my hand. And with this, it's your brain is finishing the word so you don't have to read the whole thing. And you can read a page in like half the time. Like I wish they would print books like that.
Bionic
I
reading.
would probably bionic reading. Yeah, some bionic reading, half bold. I think there's a couple different names for it. But yeah, when it comes to reading, like everybody, like please print all your books like that for us, or give me like an extension in Kindle to where I can just like have it happen. Because I think I would probably read a lot more. Because I think that's the thing. It's like I forget because I'm like trying to do it too fast. So, all right, our next topic on here kind of goes off that. We forget what we're reading is forgetfulness. This is a biggie. I put a joke on here on my notes. I said I can't remember any negatives.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's really self-explanatory. This is just kind of something that happens with us. But I think a great way to use this to our advantage is to understand that you need to delegate things sooner. And for me, it was a transaction coordinator. I probably brought on a transaction coordinator sooner in my business than most people would. But for me, it was out of necessity, because once I had a few deals going, like trying to remember all the dates and where I wrote things down, like that's what she does now, so that I don't have to. And, we learn, once we realize that we forget things and follow-ups and stuff like that, it becomes, how do we delegate and automate? Like we've become really good at that to where we don't physically have to do it. We just every once in a while have to remember to check and make sure it's still working.
and see, I think I struggle more with the short-term memory, because I'll put a piece of paper down and look for it for 20 minutes and either realize I put it where it was supposed to go, or it's not even in the same building. And kind of growing up, twice in one day I locked my keys in my car, and I was in high school, so my mom had to drive
Solid.
down to school to get with the extra key to get unlocked. And later that night, I used to work at the mall, and I had to call her, hey, I locked my keys in the car again. She had to drive down the mall to bring the extra key. And even ran out of gas twice in one day. Not the same day, but a few years later.
I was gonna say, like, wow, keys locked in your car and ran out of gas. Like that's 4 awesome things in one day.
No, really, it was 2 awesome things one day, and just always, keys. Like I have to put up my keys. I finally learned, my keys go in the same spot when I get home every time. Because if not, I'll spend 20 minutes looking for them, or 30, or won't find them, and I have to go get a spare key to go where I need to go, and then come back and, oh, that's where I put them.
Yeah.
And because I can already hear myself telling myself, oh, I'll remember. And then that's, for me, that's famous words that you'll never remember. And I was watching a video or last week, I think it was, on ADHD and coping strategies, and I can't remember the guy's name. He's a doctor. He's got a bunch of videos out there, and they're older videos. But I also remember being told in my previous career, I had a regional director tell me, he's like, the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory, because even with the shortest pencil, you can write it down. And also, and very, very, very true. And I think, I want to say, I don't know if the stat is 100% accurate, but I'm going to say 70 to 80% of the stuff you write down, you remember. And so I try to, try to write things down a little more. But of course, like Bill said, it's usually in some type of shorthand or calligraphy, or some, doctor's prescription writing.
Yeah, that hopefully we can read when we go back to it.
Yes, looking at it, kind of, what is that word?
Putting it together, like
Yeah, having to read the entire sentence 4
deciphering
times.
it. Like, yeah,
Oh, okay, that's the word. Gotcha. Like,
yeah. So
okay.
my solution for that, and I can't remember if we talked about this last time, or I know I've talked to a lot of people about it. I got a remarkable tablet, little thing. So it's super small, wasn't super cheap, but everything I write down now goes in there. It syncs to my computer, it syncs to my phone, it syncs to the cloud. So I always have my notes wherever I am, because I had stacks of just papers that I would have to leaf through, be like, what notebook did I write their notes in right now? Like, it was organized chaos. That has helped me tremendously, because even if I don't have it with me, I have my computer or whatever, I can access my account, maybe type something in there, and it'll just show up everywhere. Um, and there's no distractions on it. So it doesn't ring, it doesn't have videos, it doesn't have email, it doesn't do anything. That was kind of it was an impulse buy, not gonna lie, because, but it worked out. It really worked out. Um, Shameless plug. I got a link for $40 off. I'll put one down in the description after we're done. But
Absolutely.
I think like anything like that. Like if you're okay using an iPad, like I tried a little iPad pencil, um, use that as, just come before you start. There's my biggest piece of advice is before you start into anything like this, set up the system for it. Don't just start taking notes. Like, how am I going to set up my file system? So I created all the folders that I thought I would need. And I started them 01, 02, 03, 04. So they always stayed in the same order alphabetically and didn't move around. So I always know where they are. So I've got, my buyers, my sellers. I've got a folder for our podcast. I've got a folder for YouTube video ideas. I've got a folder for like coaching stuff, like whatever. It gets its own folder and it goes in there. And then there could be subfolders within that. So like within my buyer folder is my active buyers. And then I have a closed folder within there. So when they close, they move there. So then they're not jumping it up. But I set that whole file system up before I took my first note, because I knew I would never go back into it. And then this would turn into a paperweight, because it would just stress me out.
And my fear of getting one is losing it.
Oh, yeah. It stays in my bag. It stays, it's always with my computer. The only time I won't have it with my computer is if I'm just like running to lunch with a client and I'm not taking my whole bag. I'll just take it. But at the end of the day, it goes in my work bag right next to my computer. It just kind of always stays with that. It stays with my work stuff. But yeah, I'm still terrified to lose it.
Yeah,
But I don't lose this thing. So I'm like, I can do that.
I have lost mine a couple times. Like sunglasses. I will not spend more than $20 on a pair of sunglasses because I know for a fact I'll lose them. I'll take them off, at a restaurant, or I'll take them off showing a house or at an appointment or just somewhere, and I'll walk away. Then 3 days later, I'm like, where are my sunglasses at? I'm like, well, it's too late now because
The
I'm not going to
solution
remember
is,
what happened 3 days ago, much less 20 minutes ago. So
I have a solution. Make sure they're prescription. Then if you leave them somewhere you can't see. But they're also a lot more expensive if you lose them.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I think that's why I haven't lost my glasses, is because they're prescription. If they weren't, I would go through sunglasses like water.
I remember when I was in high school, I bought a pair of Oakleys. Spent the ridiculous amount of money on those. Had them for, I think, 3 days. Left them. We went to a lake to go swimming and water skiing. Put them down with some other belongings that I had, and left all of it. Came back to go get it, and of course it's all gone. I'm like, okay, well, there just went $120, whatever it was, back in
What
the
color
90s.
were they?
Yeah.
Like the cool ones that everyone
Oh,
had?
the Oakley,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like
they
the
were.
bright colors. I could see you
No,
sporting those.
were they white or black? I think they were called razors. Were they razors?
Hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, they were. Yeah. So since
I was
then, I'm
never
like,
cool enough to have Oakleys.
well, yeah, I worked a lot of hours. You know, my senior year in high school, I think I worked full time, just hours at the grocery store I worked at, just so I could, have money.
Yeah. So that
But
you could replace things that you forgot.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, do that all too often still.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So let me see what we got on our list here. Oh, this is a good one. Short attention span. I think we kind of know where this is going with things get boring quick. And I want to tell a story about this because so I just started um, ADHD coaching. And I had a call right before were recording this. And something came up in that call about like short attention span and losing focus and getting distracted and like what do you do when that happens to bring yourself out of it. And it's something I'm going to work on. It kind of you can kind of use it for a lot of these traits, and it's just walk away and do something mindless. Like allow yourself to get distracted. So like with the short attention span, if like something's getting boring and you're like it's getting repetitive and you're not focusing on it, then go outside, walk around the block. I've got a one wheel, ride a bike. I walked the dogs today, and I just cleared my mind, and it was great because between the calls I did that because I was working on something. I was like, let me just go walk the dogs, and so I did it. When I came back, I sat down and I wrote down like three more things to talk about on this podcast. One of them being that I, went and took a walk and had more ideas. It just clears your mind. You know, when that happens, just embrace it. Embrace it. You're not because if you sit at your desk when you know you're in one of those ruts, it's just gonna snowball. And then you're just gonna start feeling terrible about yourself. But if I'm not at my desk, I can't really feel terrible for sitting at my desk and not getting any work done. And then when I get back, I have this fresh mindset of if I'm working on that or if I switch tasks, I've got a clear mind to just kind of dive into it. And that's something I'm working on. Um, but so far it's been good.
Yeah, it's definitely short attention span. Um, just like one of the things when people are talking, just kind of okay, all right, Bill's talking, waiting your turn to talk, so to speak. But rabbit holes. I mean, so many different rabbit holes. Getting sidetracked. Like for an example, for me, if I'm looking something up on the tax records or RPR program that we use for, you know, and that, kind of shows algorithm values, and doing a neighborhood view and see another property and then click on that property and then now I'm on their tax records and see something and now I'm 20 miles away
Right.
literally looking at something because I started chasing this rabbit down a hole and come back. I'm like, okay, I've been 20 minutes now. I've got nothing done as of what I got on here intended to do. And
Yep.
that's just one example, but just all the time, and of course, marketers, know that. I mean, of course, I think the rest of the world is catching up to us as far as the short attention span because with the reels and YouTube
Hmm.
Shorts, and all that. They're only looking for a 7-second attention span. Well, it's typically
Hmm.
about twice what I'm, you know, able to do, but still, it's
Yeah.
just like, in so many distractions, so many, you hear the ding, you hear the phone ring, whatever it is, and it's just like, oh, what's that? Kind of, you get that dopamine rush, like, oh, somebody called me, oh, somebody texted me,
Yep.
oh, somebody messaged me, so let me check it, or even
Yeah.
waiting on somebody to text you back or call you back, you know,
Hmm.
it's also kind of a dopamine, sucker or rush, if you will, but
Yeah.
just,
Like I don't want to get into anything because they might call me back and then I'll be
yes,
in the middle of
exactly.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I can't start
Yeah.
that because they're going to call me and I don't have to stop. So what ends up
Right.
happening, we never start.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to put your phone on focus mode
Yeah.
when you need to step away or when you need to do something. I mean, I comment here, that's a good suggestion. When I clear, I agree to come back with more drive to complete a task than I had before. I think that's 100% what it is. Like when you do go for that walk or remove yourself, hit hit do not disturb on your phone. It's called focus mode. Like I think it was made for us. And so while you're out there, if someone does call, you're not distracted from your distraction to answer it because then you're defeating the purpose. Um, I usually bring my phone because I've got music on. That's just my way of clearing my head. But if you can keep your phone somewhere, keep it in your office and just walk around the block to clear your head. I think you'd be surprised at how much you'll get done when you get back from that, where it seems like, well, I've got all this to do. I should never leave my office. Well, you're not going to get anything done if you're there either.
Right.
You might as well get some fresh air and stretch your legs and come back just ready to rock and roll.
And I remember reading something a couple weeks ago, and I've seen a couple different articles where the average person, when they're distracted off and they lose focus, anywhere from 10 to 23 minutes it takes them to get back on task. And,
Hmm.
just think about that. I mean, just imagine that in the world we live in today with all of the notifications and, rabbit hole here. Okay. Like one of the things that drives me crazy, you go to a website and they want permission to send you notifications. No, I'm just looking something up. I don't want notifications from you because
Yeah.
I don't, I'm only here because I'm
I'm
looking something
already
up.
in a rabbit hole. Don't get me in anymore. Don't bring
Right.
me
Yeah.
back to this rabbit hole later.
Yeah, I don't need notifications from this website because I'm only looking, like one of the, like recipes. If I look up a recipe, they're always wanting to see. No, I don't want notifications from you. I'm still getting
Yeah.
notifications from some other website from 5 years ago that, you know, I've unsubscribed 12 times, and I still end up getting the same emails or notifications. So just one last thing. I do like the idea of the do not disturb or focus mode. Something I
Mhm.
have never done that I have to put into place. Because but like you said, it's one of those things. Oh, but what if somebody calls? What if a sales call? You know, it's the never-ending banter in the brain, kind of the
Um,
the little devil and the angel.
right. Right. Um, so we had another comment here asking if we no, you did not miss this in the conversation because we did not bring it up. Um, but have you used or recommend something like Notion? I'm not super familiar with Notion. I know it's like a system to kind of keep everything on track. I saw it mentioned somewhere like in an ADHD YouTube video or something, and I started to go down the rabbit hole, but then stopped. Um, so I have not looked into it. Have you? I'm looking it up
Not
now.
a whole lot. There's one I have looked into a little bit, but of course, our rabbit hole. Like if you look at my phone and all the pages I have
Mhm.
open, and because I'll put in there like Dunn's another one. Motion, I think, is another one. So there's, And here's my issue. There's so many.
Right.
It's like which one do you go with?
Right.
It's
And
like
then you have to
then
remember to use it.
exactly. So then okay, now it's going to cost me, oh, it's only going to cost you 55 cents a day, but I gotta remember to use
Yeah.
it, and it's got to fit in my plan, fit in my day I already have, because we don't want to add an extra step because
Yeah.
one of the things I have used a little bit, but it's one of those things like it's called. I have to pull it up because I haven't used it a whole lot. Uh, Ulta Self, I think it is. But then once again, it's you know a, an app I paid for a while back. I think I like this one because it was a one-time, lifetime kind of. You pay the initial fee and you get it forever, and it was just help on your routine and give yourself daily checklist. Um, but definitely, we'll definitely look them up because I'm always looking for ways to improve my day. And because if I can improve
Yeah.
my day, then I know those around me, it improves their day too, because they're not
Yeah.
hating me because I forgot
Mhm.
to do this or forgot to plan for that.
Yeah. So they said, so this is Real Agent Answers, Realtor Knowledge Library. I don't know who this is, but I might. Anyways, it says I think they use it to describe it as a second brain. You can place a brain dump and then assign later. I currently use ClickUp. I've never heard of ClickUp and have
No,
used
I've never heard of
Asana
that.
and Trello. Um, I know Trello, but I looked up Notion and it says it's a single place where you can think, write, and plan, capture thoughts, manage projects, or even run an entire company and do it exactly the way you want it. So this sounds like something that you would. I'm going to look into this. Um, this kind of sounds like one of those that you need to sit down and focus on setting it up the right way to begin with, because once you get in it, it's harder to set it up. You can set it up and then optimize it, but it's like they have different like dashboards and 3,500 template. Man, I'm already overwhelmed.
Right, and that's the other thing for me. Like I said, like I end up having to take a bunch of uh, routines off of my list because it got to be too much. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, then I had to turn notifications off because the notifications were going off at different times, and then it started to be a distraction. And
Yeah,
especially if I had already clicked on and I did it for that day, and then it sent me a reminder because that's the time it reminds you. But maybe an idea for another episode is looking some of these up and kind of reviewing them. Like, hey,
yeah.
let's look at this. This works, or this doesn't work, or why
Yeah.
would this work for you? And so one of the
If
things
you're
that
real quick, if you're listening to this and you use Notion and you have ADHD or you use a system like this, like um, reach out to one of us, because like I'd love to pick your brain, and like if it's working for you, like this is something cool that we could really dive into um in a future episode on how to like set it up. And so I'm gonna look into it. I'm no expert. I don't know if you hear sirens going by. Someone did something. Um, but yeah, it looks interesting. This would be one of those things like my thought on this, if I did this, would be there are so many sirens going by my office right now. Like I think Charleston's burning down. Um, Whenever I opened up like a new browser window, this would have to be the default. Like I think with a system like this, like that's something you have to set up to where instead of it coming to Google and like you're like, oh Google, I've got the world at my fingertips. Like the first thing that opens should be something like this, or your CRM, or whatever it is that or your calendar. I think that's a good hack for this forgetfulness is set your default web page to something that's going to organize your day. Because if you just open it up and you're like, now what? Now where am I going? Like, let's do this, world. Like you've got unlimited rabbit holes to go down. But if you open it up and you have to leave that page to do something else, I think mentally you would be better. I just thought of that. I'm gonna do that with something today. I'll let you know how it works.
yeah, do that. And one of the things that's I've come to understand with this, it's not a one size fits all.
Mhm.
And, due to life experiences and, how you grew up and how you were raised and things you've been through and, things that work for you may not work for me and vice versa. I mean, I guess that's one of the very difficult things about this is there is not a one size fits all. You can't put a band-aid on it and it goes away. It is, and, part of the journey is learning how to utilize it, find the power within it and take advantage of that. And that's, definitely for me a lifelong journey for sure. And one day I'll be better at some things and other things I won't. It's okay because tomorrow's another day. So
Here answers this. I'm gonna reach out to you. I want to get him on. I'm just gonna leave it at that for right now. If he wants
yeah,
to, he or she wants to disclose themselves, they can.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
I
the
mean,
next topic,
these are good if you can harness it and you use it. If you can figure out how to use it, these systems like Notion can be super powerful. But that would be something that I would research into before I was impulsive about it on a system like that big. Kind of like a CRM.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
like
know if I would just jump in. Like, if they have a free trial, I will sign up for the free trial. Yeah, it was Ian of Austin. Thank you, Ian.
appreciate the love.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestions. I'm gonna look into Notion. Hit me up outside here if you have any like tips or tricks on using that. Yeah, I'll let you guys know how that goes. Um,
So
next.
the next topic, I
Yeah.
think we went along on our short attention span. Kind of ironic, isn't it? But
Squirrel.
yes, emotional sensitivity.
This
I think
is
is huge
yeah.
for
This
me. For me, it is. I mean, it's just and I'll let you go ahead and get started.
yeah. This one is kind of hit me a little bit because so many trainings and coaches and everything, one of the first things they say is 100% remove yourself emotionally from the deal. There's a transaction. It is blah, blah, blah. That it's hard. For us, it's harder because of this emotional sensitivity. But, easier in commercial real estate because there's no emotions involved. It's just numbers. But when I think the benefit for this for us is it's that empathy of, because it's harder for us to fully remove ourselves emotionally when things ultimately go wrong, or we get a buyer or a seller that are in a situation like we're not treating them like a number. We understand what they're going through. We're treating them like a person and and genuinely trying to help emotionally as well as with the transaction to keep them level. And yeah, it's a double-edged sword because that can like blow up in our face, but I think that does help us with that and their situation and understanding where they're coming from in a given situation better.
Yes, yeah, double-edged sword for sure, but especially for me because there are
Mhm.
times I get definitely get emotionally invested in the transaction, and and even with my agents on my team, get emotionally invested in their success, and I always have to reel myself back in. Like I can't want it more than they want it, because then it's never going to work. And but on the transaction side, man, it does get tough. I mean, especially when you have RSD and just some of those things
Yeah.
are like getting sucker punched. Um, you
Yeah.
know, for instance, I think we may have talked about it in the last episode when you're talking to that other agent, and all of a sudden, things aren't going 100% the way they want, and they go from, hey, they were cool having this great conversation, to, hey, now I'm going to be a heinous, hateful person and threaten to, do something. And it's like, calm down. This is not that big of a deal for you to be acting like that. But then also having to understand how to not only react or not react to that, but also not let it, you know, change the direction of your day
Hmm.
and ruin your entire day or ruin your mood. And like for instance, working with some foreclosures, and we were talking before we went live. Is I've always kind of been more interested in the story of the house as opposed to the house. And a little tip for everybody: if you don't do this, if it works for you, use it. Like whenever I'm talking to a homeowner, I don't call it their home; I just call it a house.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons why I do that is to separate the emotion from it, because home is where the heart is. It's the oldest saying, and it's a house until you make it a home. Well,
Right.
when I go in, when I'm in the conversation with them and we're talking about selling their home, I don't say, we're going to sell your home. We're going to sell your
Yeah.
house, because your home is wherever you're going to be, and
Right.
whether it's in a cabin by the river or an RV or wherever. But just getting emotionally involved in the situation, and getting that story, and just seeing, like I had one earlier this year. Man, it was just it felt terrible for her, because it was almost like a her husband had passed a few years ago, so it was almost dealing with two sets of emotions in one transaction. And it was foreclosure. She was in pre-foreclosure and getting ready to get foreclosed on. So it's just like, man, just having to. And I told her, as I do when I work with clients in these situations, and especially in the probate world, it's you're going to go through all 7 stages of mourning all over again with the sale of this property, only
Hmm.
because you're going to see things. There's going to be that that gift, or there's some things that are going to happen in this transaction that we're going to bring emotions up for you, and I want to tell you that up front, so that going ahead. It's not going
Hmm.
to change it, but now that I'm aware that those are going to happen, and you don't have to feel bad because you're having those emotions.
Yep.
And just like in the foreclosure aspect, there's a pain point there,
Hmm.
and same with probate. There's a pain point. I had a transaction last year, I think it was. Super sweet couple. Their daughter had passed, and um, the same reasons that the mother wanted to sell the house were the exact reasons why the father wanted to keep the house. So it was, he didn't want to let go, because
Yeah.
that's the last time they saw their daughter, and she didn't want to. It got to the point where she had moved out,
Hmm.
and he was staying there, and it's one of those things that he just, you know, he didn't want to let go. And I told him, I said, look, I said, you got to let go. Your wife's already moved out, so
Yep.
don't, you know, don't lose her because you don't want to lose, you don't want to let go of this, and just, and he made a joke, and super great guy, you know, I still talk to him once in a while. And he's like, I guess you didn't, sign up to be my therapist, did you? I'm like, well, that's just kind of part of the process, part of the
Yeah.
deal. But getting
Yeah.
emotionally involved and just wanting the absolute best for him. And and that story had a happy ending, because the family that bought it, the son was handicapped, so, and the basement was finished. So he was able to move in the basement and have his own freedom. And it was just a really cool. It was a unique house. Some of the stuff they did just kind of head scratching, but the people
Usually
that bought,
is.
there's a buyer for every property. We just got
Yeah.
to find it, and there was no better buyer than them for that house, because it fit exactly what they needed. And they had another one, and that was and the other one I was talking about earlier, and she was just she was frozen. She was emotional. She was either emotionless or over emotional,
Hmm.
and to the point where she got paralyzed. And day of closing, I'm like, you got to move out still. So having to navigate that process with luckily I was lucky enough to have both sides of that transaction and represent both sides, and being able to be the mediator and keep it to as little aggravation as possible, because there was no other agent there to not understand the situation. And,
Right.
but it was, man, that was emotionally taxing. That one, that was one of those when it closed and she finally got moved out. It was like, oh, thank God. And,
Yeah.
but wow, it was definitely taxing just to have to watch her go through that, and also have to somewhat hold her hand and pull her through. It was one of those where I did not leave until she got to the closing table, because it's one of those that, she may drive off and not come back. So
Yeah.
it was that was the
flight risk.
Yeah, she was flight risk, but
Yeah.
that was definitely a whole lot of chaos in that one.
Yeah.
But we got
But I think it's circling back to something from before with the delegation and like a transaction coordinator on that forgetfulness. I think that falls in here too, because your transaction coordinator is just going to be your numbers transaction person. They're going to be following up with dates and doing all this. So, it can kind of work in tandem to where, when if it does get to that point, then you're like, sometimes you kind of feel bad bringing it back to the transaction, even though you have to.
Yeah.
At that point, to where you're like, okay, I've got Aaron. Aaron's awesome. I'm like, Aaron, I need you to send these out for signatures, and that it kind of separates that when you need it. Sometimes you get into that situation where I've told her, I was like, hey, we're in a touchy situation. I'm going to send this over. Like, don't reach out right now. Let me take it. Cause I knew that my clients didn't need that automatic from her. I need you to sign this form. I needed to handle it delicately. But it makes that good team of that. She's not a robot, but it's transactional on her side, allows me to be, that emotional sensitivity to where you don't always want to just be transactional. And it's a good balance in the force, if you may.
Yes. But definitely too many times I've found myself needing.
It's a slippery slope. But it's also a good way to, you connect with your clients.
Yes. And you also, you end up, gaining, a lot more times than not, you gain raving fans. Sometimes, they go away and never be seen again, but that's okay sometimes. Because, I don't want to see them again either on something,
right.
Because they were just, you did make some good choices there.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things I've said many times, help me, help you.
Yep.
I can't help you if you don't let me help you.
Yeah. Right. We've got a couple more on here. Hyperfocus. I don't really do this often. I know some people get super hyper focused. Every once in a while I will, but then the distraction hits. And we're going to give a shout out. This is from Rebecca Daniels in our ADHD group on what her positives are in this. I mean, the negatives are, you're going to lose track of time. You're going to neglect other duties and responsibilities, and you're going to burn out to not finish other tasks. But when it comes to helping our clients, here's what she said. I'm just going to read this to you. If you want an extremely specific house and don't have time to look for yourself, I will create a search in the MLS, go through every single house, create an Excel sheet with a tier of every must-have feature, narrow the list of 200 homes to less than 30, show you the one house that fits what you want, and put you under contract the same day we see it. This also works well for my reload clients who only have 2 days to look at homes and worry about missing an opportunity. Yes, that is the definition of hyper-focused, and also hyper-organized. I gotta give her, if you're listening to this, will you send me your Excel spreadsheet template?
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's like a perfect example of how our hyper focus can help people, like our clients. And if we can hyper focus, especially that very specific client, if they're like, I'm moving, I need 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, and it needs to be in this school district, I really don't care anything else. Like, okay, I could do that. But when it's like they know what they want, then you've kind of got to go into this, get yourself into that hyper focus mode and dive in. And that this is when you put your phone on silent. Then you got to do this.
Yeah, and I had one similar to that. Probably about a year and a half ago, during the the almost the height of the craze of the market.
Mm-hmm.
I had some clients call a property, show it to them, or prospects more or less, and then start talking to them like, yeah, we want to sell our house here. So okay, I went ahead and set up an appointment to look at their house, listed their house, got into contract first weekend, and the wife, she started getting super scared and
Mm-hmm.
disheartened, like, oh, we're not going to find her house. And that's when I said, look, I said, knock on wood, I've never had a family go homeless, and I don't intend now. So you are my only focus right now. We're going to find you your home. And we did, and we found it, and closed on it, and they're super happy because it was where they wanted to be originally when they moved up here 2 or 3 years prior. But it was it was challenging at the time because she was wanting to pull the plug on the transaction that we're in. It's like, it doesn't really work that, you can't just say,
not that easy.
hey, sorry, people moving here from 1,200 miles away, we're not going to sell now. And there's there may or may not be repercussions for that, and are you prepared for those repercussions if they happen? I said,
Right.
just let me help me help you. Let me let me do what I do, and then we'll find you the house. And find the house, and they were super happy once we got done. But there was that emotional sensitivity part, kind of getting emotionally involved again, and wanting to make sure that we find their home, and getting across that finish line. And I think one thing that always gets pointed out for ADHDers is like video games. I remember as a kid, of course we'll show my age a little bit, but my best friend growing up, we would go to Blockbuster on Friday, rent a game, beat it Friday night, take it back Saturday morning, get another game because you were able to swap them out with no extra fee. And we beat 3 or 4 games over the weekend and just not stop until we were done, until we beat it.
I remember it very well. That's when you could beat a game in like a night. Ian's still on here. Like Ian and I are both gamers. Like that's my like breakaway at night. Like once everyone goes to bed, is just that's my me time. Is just turn everything off, play some games, just kind of decompress. Like that's it. Like it gives me that end of the night dopamine that I need. Just try not to get into it during the day. Another thing we had talked about in our group for this hyper focus, and I love this because I do it every year. The day before our license renewal is up, and you're like, oh, shit, I have to do 16 hours of continuing education in 48 hours. And so we were like, oh, I just took a 5-hour online class. I was like, me too. It took me an hour. I've gotten really good at, focusing in on it when I have to. And it's usually at the last minute, but I get in it, I turn everything off, and I'm just in it to win it. And as long as you don't have to sit there and like move the mouse for a 5-hour class, and they'll accept that you can finish it in an hour and a half or less. Oh, solid 5 hours of CE right there.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but and not just see. I mean, I'm not saying that like, hey, we do it and we forget about it. Like, no, like I retained a lot of it. I should probably make it harder, but or not. But that's like one of those things. Like, I always try and pick my elective CE courses of something that I want to learn,
Yes.
not just the ones I think are going to be the easiest, because that'll keep me focused. Side note on this, in my coaching call, one of the guys in there is in school, in college, and he just got docked points by his professor because there was a video that they were supposed to watch, and he watched on like 1.25 or 1.5x speed because he retained the information better that way. And he actually filed a complaint, but he said he was docked the points because on the syllabus it said you had to like watch it in normal speed. But he's got ADHD. He's like, I retained probably more information than anybody. I just watched it faster. It didn't mean I didn't take anything less from it.
Mm.
And all our brains work differently. If I could do CE on like 1.5 speed, I would.
Absolutely.
If it was a video, um, just because my brain would just retain it faster. Like I would have to concentrate on the talking more if it was faster. Whereas if it was just slow speed, so if anyone wants to watch these podcasts in like half the time, go right ahead. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that his professor like docked him points because it showed that he watched the video too fast.
And it's funny because, I just found that out that you could do that not too long ago. And
Mhm.
that's the only way I watch it now.
Yeah.
I put something on, if I put a podcast on, or, if I'm, reading, doing my audio books in the morning, I put it on either, 1.25 or 1.5, because
Mhm.
the pace of what they're reading at, by the time they get to the next word, sometimes I've already lost interest in it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
and it's like, their cadence is so slow. It's like, okay, are you gonna read the story or not? I mean,
Yeah.
even though I'm not going anywhere and I'm on a walk and I'm still here, but it enables me to, my goal every morning is 20 minutes of reading, or audiobook, and
Yeah.
I'm able to get it done in usually about 15 minutes. And I love that. And then most times I'll squeeze another book in, or another topic in, and
Mhm.
that way, to gain more knowledge, and find a way to make this life we have here a little bit um, easier or more palatable or successful, whatever the case may be,
Yeah. And
or
with
enjoyable.
that audiobook, I'm going to try that. I've never really been into audiobooks because I would get bored, but I might try it on like the 1.25, 1.5. But I think that works because our brains like that competition. And it's almost that like the satisfaction and the dopamine of being able to say, I just got through an hour and 25 minutes of this book in 1 hour. And like, it's just a good, like, you feel like super, like, just accomplished. Like, I,
It,
I did more in an hour than there is an hour. And it's
what's
like, you
also
won. You just won. Like, that's a huge win.
right, exactly,
You
exactly.
saved time. I was like, I just saved 25 minutes of my day.
Exactly. And it's almost like the time of arrival on the GPS.
Oh, it's a game.
It
100% I try and beat it. And I get mad if I don't.
yeah, I do too. It's like, okay, well, I know where we're going to be for the next however long, and
Right. You
but
hit traffic and you're like,
yeah,
shit.
or when you're sitting there, we were on our way back from somewhere a couple of years ago, and every time I looked at it, it was like another 20 minutes longer. I'm like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
ended up being a wreck further down the road, and it's like, every time I looked at it, it was 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Now our 6-hour trip is 8 hours. And it's like, oh, like just
Yeah.
let's just go ahead and get off now and get a hotel and start over tomorrow.
Right. I feel
But
like pilots are like that too. I don't know if I've ever been on a plane that like left on time that hasn't been like, all right, we are 20 minutes ahead of schedule coming in. I'm like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
can you fly faster? Like, I don't fly, but like, you like hit the gas a little more, like trying to beat the GPS.
What's
Like,
the
thank you.
hyperspeed? Is that the
Yeah. Ludicrous speed.
yeah. Yes, there you go. Ludicrous. From one of the
Yes.
great
Yes.
Mel Brooks
Yes.
movies.
And that is our brains. Our brains are always in plaid.
Yes.
Like, ludicrous speed.
Yes.
Always. We're not lazy. We're just always going.
Yes.
Which brings us to our last point. Hyperspeed. Hyperactivity.
Yes.
Which is actually not a big trait within ADHD. It was only added, not long ago to the ADD. Little history, like most people thought, like, oh, like ADD is the kid that can't sit still and he's always bouncing off the walls and interrupting the teacher, and like that's all it is. When really, like, a small portion of people have that hyperactivity trait of it, and it's even less common in females. So I'm not really on that hyperactive. I would call myself more restless than hyperactive when it comes to these traits.
Yeah. Watching my 9-year-old son in
My son is 100% hyperactive.
yeah. Hyperactive, which flows right into the impulsivity, unfortunately, but for him, I would say my brain's probably always in hyperactive mode.
Yeah.
Just never stopping. Like I said, I could read in a book and thinking about different scenarios going on or in the various outcomes that may or may not come. What they say 90% of the stuff we worry about never comes true.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll still worry about it.
100%.
And I guess probably what frustrates me about that is just it not allowing me to be present in the moment sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in my head and it's like, oh, when and this happens to a lot of people. We're at home, we're thinking about, oh, I got this I gotta do, I got all these things at work I gotta do. And then we're at work, we're talking about, oh, can't wait to go on vacation or can't wait to be home. And that's like, and I mentioned before, kind of one of my goals is to, be more intentional throughout my life and, and being present. So, and for me, because it's such a hard thing to do, it's hard to be present, especially if it's not a fun atmosphere or,
Yeah.
if you're in a heated discussion or argument or, the kids aren't listening and it's like, man, I would, I'd rather be somewhere else right now, and just trying to get the head space, focused on where I need to be, because that's where I want to be. Even though it's not as fun at the moment, but just and that's probably the extent of my hyperactivity. I mean, I do have moments where I'll get in these cleaning moods and go do 4 or 8 things, get it all done, and be able to get 2 days worth of work done in 2 or 3 hours. But also then the other flip side of that is starting 3 other projects and not finishing them.
Right.
So that's the double-edged sword of that aspect.
Yeah. I think a good way to embrace your like hyperactivity or hyper restlessness, we can call it, is usually it happens when you're like sitting at a desk, and I mean, I have my little like fidget thing, like always just moving. But for us as agents, like if you can't sit still and like you're like getting to that like restlessness point, pull up the MLS, find vacant homes around you that you haven't seen yet, and just go preview properties. Because now you're succumbing to that hyperactivity. You're getting out there, you're doing something, you're moving around, you're doing it. But then it's also directly related to your business, to where, when I was a new agent, they were like, just go preview properties, like just learn the market. I mean, don't disrupt anyone's day. Only pick go and show properties that like no one lives in. But use that energy to get out there and learn the market and show that, jump on social media, show that you're out there previewing properties. And I think you can really use that for good. And then in your head, you're like, you're learning the market better than someone who's just sitting there just looking at the pictures. Now oh, this neighborhood is all this style. Like, oh, I saw this house. Maybe your client doesn't want that house, but maybe 2 months from now, you find a client who likes that neighborhood. Now you can talk about the houses you've seen in that neighborhood. Here's what the other ones were like. Here's how this one compares. All because you were restless. All because you couldn't sit still. You just got to get out there. Get out there.
It's funny you say that, because one of the things I challenge new agents when they join the team is, their first few weeks are going to be previewing properties. And a lot of times that's going to be either on the MLS or, those vacant properties. We're going to walk them. Just walking them, and just getting familiar with, some of the terminology we use, just some of the different floor plans and things of that nature, so they can, have experience. And probably the one thing I always do is I make them open a lockbox for me before they even leave. Because
don't even get me started.
Those things they can be fickle.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, there's nothing, for me, there's not a whole lot more daunting than sitting there with clients waiting for you to open up a lockbox and it's not working.
Yep.
And especially if it's during the summer, it's hot and we're starting to sweat. And it's like, oh, like some of those old school letter combination ones, like whoever invented those things is evil.
With the dial, like you had on your locker, people use those in your market?
I haven't seen them in a while, but
okay.
Every once in a while you'll see one like, why? It's like, why? And which I think why was some of the codes I've used, but it's like, why would you do that? Those things are the worst thing. But anyway, as we rabbit hole, but it's just one of those things that it's getting out there, getting kind of like what you said in the beginning, doing that, walking away for a few minutes or for a few seconds, walking outside, getting a breath of fresh air, and clearing your head. And that's something that it will, it helps me. And I mean, one of the other things about hyperactivity we talked about a little bit before we got on the call was for me, overstimulation. All the everything going on, and it's like all this stuff is coming at you, and you're like, man, I'm just wow. And that's that moment I take that few seconds, like I'm gonna walk outside real quick, and I got to take a little bit of, I got to step away, so I don't allow it to change my mood and change their mood. And usually it happens at home when we get home, the kids are getting home and they're coming home from school, they're all excited, and two or three, one definitely has ADHD. Our youngest one probably does too. So they're overstimulated as well. So three of it's overstimulated. They're all kind of doing these, just like, wow. Okay.
And the dogs are going crazy.
Oh yeah. Both dogs are going crazy because
we're in the same boat. I have one less kid, but same boat.
Yeah. And then, wife telling you about her day, and it's like, okay, this is a whole lot of stuff going on. And
you're like, everyone's trying to talk to you at the same time, and
it's just like.
But unlike at work, we can't just tell those things to shut up.
No.
But in the office, when there's those million things going on, like just figure out your system on how do you pick what's getting your attention. I mean, when I get home, there's a lot of times like my wife and I will both be like, everyone's talking at once, one person at a time, and then both kids start talking again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's like that right there. Like if there was an analogy for what my brain was like all the time, it's that. I tell it one person at a time, and then they all start talking, thinking that it's their turn. That's what it is. If you're listening to this and you don't have ADHD, like that's what it is. Imagine you have like 47 browser tabs open. There's music coming from 2 of them, but you don't know which one it is, which 2 it is. That's what it's like all day.
Yep. And feeling like you're late somewhere or forgot something on top of
And
that.
if you close them all, you'll forget what they were and you'll never get back to it.
Yep. My computer updated last week. Or no, actually,
And all your browser tabs closed.
no, I actually
It's my biggest
closed
fear.
I started kind of doing the split screen and I actually X'd out the entire thing. I was like, oh man, I have like 12 tabs open that I had left open intentionally because I was doing something on them. And
Oh no, that's my biggest fear. Or like I didn't save it. Like
and one thing I did want to give a shout out, kudos to all of us that do have this superpower, this ADHD, and still in the business. I mean, that's something we talk about all the time. And 87% failure rate over every 3 to 5 years, 90% for the first year, and I think it's been an average of 10,000 agents per month this year. That's getting out of the business. It's it's not for the weak. This industry, it's not easy. It's simple, not easy. And so for those of us with the short attention span and the opportunities that we have to still be in this business, I've been full time now for 6 years. I got licensed originally back in 2006 down in Florida, and did a part time. And it's so funny. I look back now, I'm like, I don't know how I did a part time because this is definitely a full time gig for sure.
Yep.
But I think you said you've been in 8 years now.
Yep.
And still here, still thriving and growing,
still
finding ways to make it better,
and still struggling. Like,
absolutely. I mean, every day is it's one of the great book by John Maxwell. It's not what you lose, is what you learn. And it's one of the things I say quite a bit. Those mistakes that we make, and like going back to the shiny object syndrome, and buying things or or services that just were terrible. It's the my expression for that is the price of tuition. Sometimes you have to pay to learn lessons. You got to pay to go to school, and it's a lifelong project. I keep saying that, but it is. I mean, no one has the correct answer on how everything's going to work the first time. I mean, there's some lucky ones out there, but we're just, and what I like about this industry is, we can adapt something that someone else is doing that we like and try it. If it works for us and we like it, do it. If not, we don't have to. Just move on to the next thing. And that adaptive nature that we have definitely helps out, because the only constant we have in our world is change.
Yes. Excellent. I think that's a good note to end this on. And then, just because if we started this, mainly because there were no resources for any of us, but at the same time, it's to let everyone know that you're not alone, and that there are a lot of us out there with ADHD. If you have any questions, if you guys want to reach out, just reach out to us. Like, we're here to help and make your lives better and your businesses thrive.
And always open to hear suggestions and what works for you. And One thing
Yeah.
I say a lot in transactions, we're human beings first.
Yep.
And there's a human element to this, and love to be able to connect with anybody out there on what's working, what's not working for you, and
Definitely.
see if it works for us, and what we can do to help each other. And when we had a conversation when we started this, is if we can help one, or more people in their situation with this, and this thing, it's a success. So
Yeah.
job well
And we're
done.
learning as we go too.
Absolutely.
Like this
Absolutely.
is our journey too. We're not experts. We're on this journey with you. So
And definitely, happy you joined us. I'm going to ask if please give us a like and a subscribe
there
if you
you
don't
go.
mind.
You're learning. You're
Give us a share.
learning.
Give us a
Got
share,
you.
and
Yeah, Phil.
we're looking to be able to grow this and help more people. And love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments if you have any suggestions on what we should talk about in future episodes. We would love to hear them because we are always open.
Even about real
We
estate.
want to know. Help us help you. We want to know what
Absolutely.
you want to talk about and you want to hear about. So thanks for everyone who joined us live. Thanks for everyone who is listening on the replays. Please share this with your friends, and we will see you, or you'll hear us next time. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Peace.